Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna, and this is my colleague Noel. We are here from the Kilimanjaro Project. We are an NGO based in Moshi, and today we are going to be talking about our work, what we are doing, and presenting the different programs that we have and how do we implement them. In brief, our organization is planting trees with communities, and our main area of implementation is between Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Meru. The main purpose of our work is to accelerate ecosystem and biodiversity restoration in partnership with communities for better livelihoods. So I'm going to break this purpose down into actually what does it mean for us, what do we mean by ecosystem, by biodiversity restoration, what do we mean by partnership, communities and better livelihoods. But before I go there, I would like to play a short video that will give you an idea about the motivation behind our NGO, and you will also get to hear from the founder of the organization, Sarah Scott, who was supposed to be the original speaker here, but because of her commitments, she couldn't make it.
We've been decimating our forests at an alarming rate. We have natural habitats that are world conservation areas, and those have to be protected. And the first people to protect them are the people of Tanzania ourselves.
There's 20 rivers that flow from Mount Meru and Kilimanjaro, feeding into the African basin. And these rivers have been severely degraded over time, mostly due to land clearance for agriculture. Some of these rivers used to flow throughout the year and torrent down the mountain, and now they don't even flow at all, or they only flow during the rainy season. And this catchment area then flows down to the coast and affects the lives and water sources of more than 5 million people.
I'm working here since over 30 years on Kilimanjaro and other areas in East Africa, and during this time I've experienced a lot of changes here on Kilimanjaro regarding vegetation and landscape and along the river courses. In particular, these riverine forests are like a network, veins that are present promoting and propagating biodiversity.
It's the communities that are the most important stakeholders to our projects.
The presence of Kilimanjaro Project then provide awareness to the community. We have been encouraging them that they plant these trees and take care of. They will benefit from those trees in many, many ways.
Our mission is accelerated ecosystem restoration. We need to do this restoration work at scale. And in order to scale, we believe in dynamic active partnerships. We cannot do this alone. Large-scale restoration is complex, and it takes a diverse amount of partners to scale.
We cannot bring back this former dense forest, but we can concentrate on certain areas. We are promoting biodiversity and we have the people living there.
The kind of meeting we were recently doing there, we understand that. So to plant a tree is easy, but to grow it and nurture it is really more challenging. We are nature, and as soon as we re-establish this relationship, we have to come back into a symbiosis and a reciprocity of not just extraction and taking, but one of giving.
Kijani Pamoja, tupande miti na kila mmoja apande anga lao. Ili anga lao nisema sana, sababu moja utoshi. Tuje pamoja! Tuje pamoja! Tuje pamoja!
Let us show the world what we can do when we do it together.
Okay, so you got to Sorry?
That doesn't seem exciting.
We just keep on watching YouTube. So you heard from Sarah, and you heard about the main purpose of our organization origin of our activities. It's the rivers that are flowing down from the Kilimanjaro and from Mount Meru, the rivers that are the source of life and that are feeding the communities below. We are talking about 5 million people that are benefiting from these rivers, and probably even more if we talk about the whole Pangani Basin. These are very important sources of life that have been over the years exploited, unfortunately, deforested, subject to soil erosion, and we need to protect them. So that is the main driver behind our organization, and if I could go back to what our purpose is and break it down into individual actions of what we are doing, it would go to these 5 areas. Restoring degraded riverine forests and smallholder lands. So we have also, across the years, realized that it's not only the riverine areas that needs protection, but it's also the land of the smallholder farmers that are living in the whole area of Kilimanjaro. It's one of the most densely populated region in Tanzania, and also it is Kilimanjaro in itself. It's an ecosystem that is very unique in the world and it's worth protecting. We also concentrate on improving access to indigenous seedlings and saplings by growing seedlings in our nurseries. We've got 2 nurseries, each with a capacity of 200,000 seedlings, one at Usa River, servicing the Arusha region, and another one at Weru, servicing the Kilimanjaro region. We only specialize in growing indigenous seedlings. We have a very dedicated nursery team that collects the seeds from indigenous trees from the surrounding areas and from the national parks, and we are creating documents and harvesting the data about the seeding calendars of all the species that we are trying to protect and that we introduce back. Growing value-aligned partnerships is also something that is one of our core values. We know that we can't do this ourselves, and we are a collaborative organization, always looking for partnerships that can enhance and improve our activities, whether it's working with the government organizations, such as Tanzania Forestry Services, or working with partners in the ground, such as Natural Extract Industry, which is a company in Moshi growing vanilla, and we are partnering together on providing trees for vanilla growers that need them for growing vanilla, because vanilla needs shade. We are also not naive, and we know that every single farmer uses their land to grow food, to generate income, to pay school fees for the children, and therefore we are also thinking about how can we create financial incentives for the communities through tree growing and also at the same time protecting the biodiversity. So we are talking about these aspects when we are talking about individual projects and programs that we are having in our organization. And the last one is about facilitating environmental training and capacity building for communities. So through our work, we have realized that the common assumptions that we have, that probably many communities hold a lot of knowledge about trees, is actually many times already not there. That knowledge has been lost. And the new generations of people actually don't know so much about indigenous trees that the ancestors knew about. By providing them this knowledge about the benefits of indigenous trees and what they can do with them, we are actually giving them the agency, and we are motivating them to having reasons why to reintroduce these trees back into their farms and landscapes. At the same time, we'll be talking about different capacity buildings, focusing on the soft skills to give to the farmers. So not only learning about principles of agroforestry and about trees themselves, but also talking about how we can increase the self-confidence in the farmers, give them the leadership skills that they need to be the own agents of their actions. So we are going to be talking briefly about 4 flagship programs. Noah is going to present on the Pay-to-Grow model, and I will then talk about our smallholder carbon project and about our efforts to save endangered species of Kilimanjaro and the pipeline of what we want to eventually achieve one day, which is restoration of whole degraded ecosystems. So I will pass pass the mic to Noel.
Good afternoon. I think we've all heard what Sarah had said, and we admire her and hope that she was here with us. Good afternoon. Sorry. As I was saying, I'm going to try and explain why I think this, what we are doing is important and why I value what we are doing. I was born in Trombo, a small town about 120 kilometers from the west of Arusha city. And as a kid, we used to play in rivers and streams, and it was really nice, and the water was flowing, and the rice paddies were all with water all year round. But then in the past 3 years, I was just in Trombo, and then I saw kids playing a little bit younger when I used to play in the same river. And it was as if they were playing in mud, and it was a muddy beach. And then the farmers who used to cultivate rice kept on complaining that they did not have enough water throughout the year. The times were not as good as they used to. And then as I went on times, I came to realize that there are people doing really nice jobs restoring the riparian forest because of encroachment of agricultural activities into the riverine areas. And yeah, we as Kijani Pamoja, we are working with our partners Fair Tree. We are working with our partners Fair Tree and Green Stand to make sure that the pay to grow model goes on. One may ask, how do we identify our sites, or how do we start to get to know where to do these projects? Through partnerships and friends from different societies. There's the WUA, which is the Water User Associations based in Kilimanjaro, and SWAM, which is the Sustainable Water Management Association, and Pangani Basin Water Board, which we are working to restore the Pangani Basin. So as we started, they gave us points, and one point led to the other, and then we started planting trees. As I've mentioned, we work with Fair Tree and Green Stand. So Green Stand is an NGO that has developed a platform which will enable companies and organizations to grow trees, not to plant them, to grow them, so that a grower will go from time to time, track the tree, and then so that different companies and people growing those trees can see the progressive growth of the tree. Now, with the pay to grow, it goes in a way that we pay 400 shillings per tree that has survived, that is taken care of by a particular grower, per truck, every after 3 months for 2 years. One will say, why is it 2 years? It's because we believe that 2 years is that time that a farmer or a tree needs for it to sustain itself, to be able to provide for itself. And then after 2 years, we believe farmers have been working with the trees, and they will not just let it go eat the trees just because the payments have stopped. That is what we do. And we keep moving on and on and on. After we've identified the sites, the sites for planting, through those that have taken us to that site, we go to the communities and select the crew leader. So that's the flow of command during the implementation of the project. And then there is Kijani Pamoja, as you can see in the chapter, then comes the crew leader. The crew leader, one crew leader can mobilize farmers to grow up to 50,000 trees. We've seen that, and it's still in action. After we find a crew leader, we get growers, then with the growers, we plant the trees. And then from time to time, they receive payments. For now, we're doing it 400 shillings per tree, per truck, every after 3 months, for 2 years. Then the crew leader gets 10% of that. So for every tree that survives, the crew leader gets 40 shillings of the tree. So this is an example of the platform. Oh, sorry, I actually forgot to mention that I also work with Fair Tree. So I work with Kijani Pamoja, and then I work with Fair Tree. With the Fair Tree site, Fair Tree, I'm sorry. I forgot to say what Fairtree does. So Fairtree is an organization that basically uses the technology that Greenstand developed to try and do tree planting projects. So with Fairtree, you have the whole system which enables growers to track and receive payments. And then Kijani Pamoja has adapted the model from Fairtree, and we've tried to use it to restore the riparian areas. So this is a platform, as it looks like in the web, where you're able to verify the trees. As you can see, the trees, you can see them properly. You have the options to approve the trees or reject them. Then there are these options down there. There are options down there. From here I can see what growers is. From here I can zoom the tree and see it closely. Then from here I can see where the geolocation, the geotag location of that particular tree. Then from this side I can see the whole map of that particular grower. And then, of course, the basic challenges that growers try to treat us, and they will track a tree, a single tree, track it multiple times. But then when you're used to that and you've done this time and time again, you get to spot those things. And then we have these growers, so I'm expecting if Noel is doing that particular area, then I don't expect Hannah, let's say, to be tracking trees in that particular area, so to avoid double counting. So that's one of the things we do to make sure that we get good quality trees. Thank you very much, and welcome.
The pay-to-grow model we are mainly using as an incentivization model for restoring the riparian zones on the rivers. These riparian zones usually belong to communities, and there is a law in Tanzania which says that you shouldn't be conducting any agricultural activities 70 meters on each side of the river. So when we go to the communities and when we want to convince them to stop grazing these lands and instead planting trees, this is the model that we are using. We are selecting people that will be taking care of those trees and making sure that they don't get chopped by cows and goats in those first two critical years of the growth. Thank you, Noel. Okay. So this is a project that we are developing at the moment. We are actually currently conducting a feasibility study to see if we can make this work. Some of you might be aware of the carbon project, of the new carbon market, which consists in, those of you that don't know about carbon, just to very quickly give you a brief introduction. The trees, when they grow, they are capturing carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide, in the world efforts to combat climate change, has been converted into carbon credits. And carbon credits, if you have carbon credits, you can sell them at the market, at the international market, and that is a new way of channeling finances into conservation. So we at the Kilimanjaro Project are looking into the feasibility of having a carbon project which consists in growing trees, but instead of growing trees on big swaths of land, we are growing trees with smallholder farmers. So I'm going to talk about the methodology and about how we have designed this project and how it might work, and how we want to engage the communities in working with us in planting trees. The ultimate goal is not only to give financial incentives to the communities to plant the trees, but again, it's the restoration of the ecosystem. And as Andreas Henn, the scientist that was talking in the video, said, we can't really do a full-scale restoration. We can't bring the forests that have been lost back, but we can at least restore and bring some of the biodiversity back by planting trees. So this is an organization that is in Kenya, and I believe they were supposed to be presenting this morning, but that presentation was cancelled. It's a project that is it's a grassroots program that has existed for 15 years, and that consists in small farmers growing trees. The project is organized by the farmers, for the farmers, and the organization that is managing it, which in Tanzania with the Kilimanjaro Project, is simply the administrative backbone of the whole project. Farmers are farmers are forming small groups, and in those small groups they are growing trees together, that potentially after 10, 15 years they can harvest the financial benefits of receiving payments. But in the meantime, they have agency over what trees are going to plant, and they can also harvest the other benefits from growing trees, such as selling the fruits if it's an avocado tree, or timber if it's a timber tree. So there are three main features I want to talk about: the socioeconomic and environmental, the ongoing training, and the agency and ownership. In Tanzania, we have decided to run this project rolling out in the Kilimanjaro region because it's very similar to where it originally started in Kenya. In Kenya, it was in the Meru County, around Mount Kenya. And when you look at the socio-demographic parameters, it's very similar. We need high population density, and we need farmers living closer together, so there can be communication between them. This project improves farm fertility because we are practicing the principles of agroforestry, and it gives financial incentives, as I said, in the form of carbon, and then it strengthens the community. So it's really tapping into the long tradition in East Africa of community, of the importance of the community, and people working with their neighbors together, whether it's in groups supporting them financially, or whether it's forming new groups specifically for this project. The ongoing training is something that we really care about. It's the core of the program. There are two aspects in the ongoing training. One is training on the hard skills, so agroforestry, showing farmers how to plant trees, what distance, which trees are good to be planted on the boundaries, which trees are good to be planted within the farm, to maximizing the efficiency of the existing land, because one thing that we want to ensure, we don't want to be displacing farming activities of the farmers, but at the same time we are using the same land. So if Noel has one piece of land and he's already growing maize there, we don't want to be planting trees and displacing his maize growing activity. We want to advise him on how he can maximize the efficiency of his land by planting trees together with what he's already doing. The other aspect that we can also consider really important is training farmers in the soft skills. That is on leadership, self-confidence, and coaching them to believe in themselves, to be able to be the own agents of this program and to be the main actors in this program. So it's not run by an NGO, but it's run by the farmers, for the farmers. By giving the agency and ownership to the farmers, we are ensuring the long-term sustainability of the program. The methodology that we have adopted from Kenya is something that we've been inspired by, but at the same time we also are incorporating some DIY or do-it-yourself elements to the project. And that is that we want to be true to our core principle of promoting biodiversity and planting indigenous trees. We are also very aware that the issues with land ownership is something that might impede our activities, because this project is for long term, it's for 30 to 60 years of growing trees with us. So we are partnering with organizations that are helping us to assess the cost of what it would mean to give official land title to the farmers in exchange for signing up for this program and growing the trees with us for the next 30 to 60 years. We are giving education on the indigenous trees, as I mentioned. A lot of this knowledge is already being lost. And farmers are very excited to be learning again about the properties, whether it's the medicinal properties or the timber properties of the indigenous trees, and understanding how they can bring them back into their farms. And lastly, we are also partnering with other organizations, such as the government bodies or private companies that are looking for organizations that can bring trees into their program. As I mentioned, the nature extract industry, Moshi, is one of them, because Bandila needs trees for growing and the farmers need more trees. So they are giving us access to the farmers and we are giving farmers access to the trees. This is another very exciting project that we are working on, and it's about saving endangered species. The species is called Priorium sol. This is a tree that used to be very abundant in the Kilimanjaro ecosystem. It grows in the groundwater forest that was very prominent hundreds of years ago. In fact, we heard stories from from the scientists that hundreds of years ago, when the Arab traders were looking for routes of how to get to the shore, they were avoiding from far the lowlands around Mount Kilimanjaro because it was considered this martial area where they would always get stuck with their carts. Nowadays, this area has been deforested, it's very dry, it's considered as an area where organizations don't want to go planting trees because it's considered as a very high risk. But back in the time, this Prioria saw used to be abandoned in this region. It's a majestic tree that takes 70 to 100 years to maturity. That means that before it produces the first seeds, it has to be between 70 to 100 years old. And then once it reaches maturity, it produces seeds only every 5 to 7 years. So you can see the reproduction cycle is very fragile, and there's no wonder that once these trees are being cut down, then the chances for reproductions are quite low. We are very lucky because together with the scientists, we have identified 3 mature and seeding species this year and managed to collect 150 kg of these seeds in the forest and propagate 10,000 seedlings in our nurseries. It is estimated that there is only 70 specimens remaining between Kenya and Tanzania, so it's highly endangered tree. I have a short video just to show you how majestic this tree is and how big it is. This is a tree that is in Moshi rural. It is one of our workers that just bumped into it randomly and was curious what this big species is because he's a tree fundi and he didn't recognize the species. So after consultations with the scientists, we realized that it's one of these trees, and it's just lying on a farmer's land, which has now become the new touristic hotspot for all our donors and partners. So they come here. So this tree is massive. It's around 40 meters tall. It was deforested due to make timber, to make boats. All of it. It's a very solid, hard wood. And you might be wondering where are we going to plant this tree so it's not subject to the big risks of reforestation. As you know, there are pressures from the pastoralists, there are pressures from the people. There's the drought and many other factors that would impede the success of reintroducing this tree back into the nature. So we are partnering with TPC, the big sugar plantation. They have a nature reserve called Namalo within their boundaries in Moshi. And this is the perfect habitat for Prioria. So we are going to plant the inaugural 3,000 seedlings with them within the nature reserve, just on the riparian zones, what is in its natural habitat. This reintroduction is not going to be cheap. It's much easier to cut down a tree than to reintroduce a tree back. We are not only obviously digging the holes, preparing it with the manure, mulching the trees, but we are also going to be investing time into post-planting care and into creating cages to protect the trees. Just last year we had an example of very frustrating efforts to reforest riparian zone where the community was really engaged and they were really happy to plant 1,000 trees with us. And after we have successfully planted them in one day, we woke up to a site with all seedlings being uprooted by monkeys the next morning. So we are going to invest into building cages that are going to be sitting on top of each tree to make sure that the trees survive the first years of their growth. The map shows the area where we will be planting the 2D TPC. This is the nature reserve, and you can see how the rivers are flowing around, so that's where the Prioria is going to be planted. So this takes me to where we want to go next and what we are aiming for, what is our audacious goal. Within the same area, we talked about TPC and the big map that I showed you that was around here. And right next to it is this is a Kahe district of Moshi rural ward with 3 remnants of the formerly existing forests. The Rao forest still there, Kahe 2 and Kahe 1 forests, and then the Miwalani Springs, which I brought there but you can't really see anymore. This used to be one big ecosystem of this groundwater forest. And although these forests are being gazetted, they are being heavily encroached by people for fodder, for timber, and also the Miwalani Springs is also being protected by the Pangani Water Basin Authority. It's under heavy threat. So we would like to combine all the approaches that I talked about by giving reasons for smallholder farmers to plant trees in between, and by protecting these big areas and looking at different sources of funding to recreate a potential ecosystem that can bring back the species that were lost. So perhaps not talking about big mammals, but creating a safe habitat for small creatures and to bring it back. So that's all from me and from our presentation. I wanted to go back to our partners. So just to give you an overview of the partners that we are working with, as I said, it's part of what we are, part of our values, creating collaborative partnerships, working with Tanzania Forestry Services, working with ECHO, for example. I have to mention that thanks to Irvin, we have successfully planted